Hello, welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to explain how you can rescue a Sansevieria like this when it's overwatered. So I got an example, Sansevieria here. So when this plant becomes overwatered, you will see leaves a bit curling like this, and if they don't have any brown edges, that means it's overwatered rather than underwatered. So what can you do to save this plant? So the first thing you have to do to save it is you have to make sure that the soil, which this doesn't currently have, but just pretend that this has soil, you have to let it dry out. So if the plant's very overwatered and if the soil that the plant's currently growing into is wet, you may have to repot the plant because the soil will take too long to dry out completely. And to save the plant, you will have to basically get it into new soil that's nice and dry. The roots are currently being suffocated in the wet soil, and if you repot it into dry soil, it has time to breathe and heal again. While you repot your plant, you may want to check the roots if they're actually rotting or not, because if they are, you have to trim them. Rotting roots can spread to healthy roots, and that's not what you want, because then it's going to get worse. So if you pull the plant out of the pot, I won't do that here, but if you pull it out, you can check the soil. If it's very wet, you can loosen from the roots a little bit. Then you can check the roots. So if they're either smelling really funky, like a bit of a rotting smell, or they're black, you have to cut them off. Any of them. If they're healthy, they're still white. For example, for the Sansevieria, healthy roots are white roots, or they could also be brown because they're growing in the soil, but they're at least firm. If you touch them and they're mushy, they're rotting, so then you have to get rid of them. So once you've repotted, let the plant dry out for 2 days, maybe a bit more, but then at least the plant has had some time to catch its breath, basically. And then you can slowly start to water it again, and make sure you water it less this time. If your Sansevieria is actually not super overwatered, if the soil is moist but not wet, you can also let it dry out for 2 days. It helps to put it in a spot that has a lot of light, because usually those spots are warmer, which helps to dry out the soil a little bit quicker. You can check if the soil of your plant is wet by having a look at it, because if it's glistening, if you can physically see water on it, then it's definitely wet. If it's just a bit darker than it normally is, then it's just moist. But wet, you can really see it on there. It's really shining. So on average, you should probably water it every 2 weeks or so. Sansevierias love to drought. They do not like wet soil that much at all. So that's why maybe it's even a good idea to plant it in cactus soil, because that dries out really quickly. And also make sure you have drainage holes. If you don't have drainage holes, like I don't have here, make sure that you pot it in a plant like this, or sorry, a pot like this. Because this, I don't know if I can show you without the lake falling out. This does have drainage holes, you see? And there you also see some roots poking out. These are healthy roots. But if you don't have any drainage holes in a pot like this, make sure to plant it in this and then put it inside the other pot. Because that way you can still water your plant and make sure that all the excess moisture could escape the pot if it stays behind in the pot. So that's why it's also quite easy to actually pull this out of the big pot here, water it like this, and put it in a sink or a bucket and let it like sit in there for like 5 to 10 minutes. Because then all the soil will have absorbed all the water, and nothing will stay behind in the pot basically, so you don't overwater your plant as easily. I hope this video taught you something. If you find this interesting, subscribe. I share a lot more tips like this on my blog that I will link in the description. Hopefully you find some use out of it, and yeah, I hope to see you next time.